But the flip side with SEO, it takes a lot longer. There's a lead time to it. A lot of people say it's a lot harder than what it was. I don't think it's harder. I think it's certainly changed. But you do need a system in place, and you need to understand sort of all the elements of the process. And once you get all of those pillars correct and you make sure you're being consistent with it, you can certainly start to see success. There's a number of different reasons why SEO is maybe one of the last channels that people look at. Number one, paid advertising, there's very limited barrier to entry. You can obviously, it's easy to lose money as well, but you can set up a campaign on Facebook or Google Ads or YouTube, and you can start seeing traffic come in, and hopefully you can make some sales. So, and for that reason, there's a lot of courses out there, there's a lot of information, and you can do very well with it.
Our guest today, Jono Farrington, is an e-commerce SEO expert. He's the founder of the agency called EcomXSEO, working with Shopify clients around the world, and also created an extensive course about Shopify SEO. In our conversation, we talked about everything that is e-commerce and SEO related. Jono covered the 4 pillars of e-commerce SEO, which means on-page SEO, off-page SEO, technical SEO, and content creation. We talked about how can SEO increase your e-commerce profits. We talked about common SEO mistakes e-commerce store owners do. And at the end of the show, John also shared some benchmarks. How should a store owner set the correct expectations when it comes to SEO efforts?
Welcome to the EcomXFactor podcast, where it's all about launching and scaling your business using sales funnels, automations, and smart marketing. And now, please welcome your host, the founder of EcomXFactor, Yaron.
Cool. So I was asking you, how did you end up in e-commerce SEO?
Yeah, so when we came back from overseas, and my partner and I were working locally in his general jobs, a UK couple, we were looking for housemates, and they moved in with us, and they were very much into digital marketing, and they had their own websites, and they were also very interested in e-commerce. And so at that time, we actually decided to sort of partner up a little bit, and we started working together on some e-commerce sites. And actually, to this day, I'm still a part of that business. Not in the day-to-day operations, but they're based in the UK. And that's sort of where when we saw what you could do with e-commerce, that's when we really decided that e-commerce was certainly something where we wanted to be involved in the future. And that was close to 10 years ago. So wow. I think in internet terms, it's a long time ago.
It's a lifetime.
Yeah,
for sure.
I think WooCommerce, and I don't even think Shopify was around then, but WooCommerce was really young, and so it was. It was a Wild West, as they say.
Nice. Very often in e-commerce, SEO is overlooked. People go like for Google Shopping and Facebook. So can you share a bit about how do you consider SEO? You mentioned before we hopped on the call, so you said that you consider to be like 4 pillars of SEO that is relevant for e-commerce. So can you share a bit about this? Because I'm sure that many listeners don't even know. They know what is SEO, like generally speaking, but they never sort of implementing this in their stores.
Yeah, look, I think there's a number of different reasons why SEO is maybe one of the last channels that people look at. Number one, paid advertising, there's very limited barrier to entry. You can obviously, it's easy to lose money as well, but you can set up a campaign on Facebook or Google Ads or YouTube, and you can start seeing traffic come in, and hopefully you can make some sales. So, and for that reason, there's a lot of courses out there, there's a lot of information, and you can do very well with it. But obviously with that traffic, if you turn, apart from maybe return customers you'll get, and you'll build a database and they can come back and buy from you. But if that traffic is turned off, then that from your paid ads, then obviously that stops. And that's where SEO is different, where once you get things set up and you've got that traffic coming in regularly and it's growing, hopefully, it stays there. There are some times where it might reduce, or there are such things where there's times where Google will give a penalty to a site if something's gone wrong, but you can also recover from those as well. But the flip side with SEO, it takes a lot longer. There's a lead time to it. A lot of people say it's a lot harder than what it was. I don't think it's harder. I think it's certainly changed. But you do need a system in place, and you need to understand sort of all the elements of the process. And once you get all of those pillars correct and you make sure you're being consistent with it, you can certainly start to see success. And the key with SEO is certainly consistency and being patient. If you're not a patient person, sometimes SEO is maybe not the right thing for you to be looking at, and you're better off in. But essentially, what we look at when we're looking at any e-com store, there's 4 pillars. There is, first of all, the technical aspect of your site. So is your site nice and clean from a technical perspective? You don't have silly things like broken links. Broken links is obviously where someone goes to click through a HTML link on your site and it goes to a 404 error page. And that includes links going within your site, so internal links, but also linking out to other people's site. Orphan pages, where with ecom, what happens a lot if you've got a seasonal product and that product goes out of stock for the period of time during a season, URL can still be in the sitemap of your site. Google sees that, but there's no navigation within your site for a user to find that page. And that's what's known as an orphan URL or an orphan page. And that's considered a low quality signal with Google. So you need to want to make sure that the technical aspect of your site, all those things are nice and clean and tight. And that's probably one of the most overlooked elements of e-commerce SEO on the lower end, where people are just starting or even when they're doing well, but their site's not very big, is the technical SEO. The really big guys in e-commerce who have hundreds of thousands of products and been around a long time, they understand how important it is. And I would think the enterprise level e-commerce stores and the enterprise SEO guys who are working on those e-commerce stores, I consider them the best SEOs in the world, because it takes a lot of effort. I mean, these days, there's lots of tools out there that can help you for a technical aspect of SEO. We use tools. Yeah, Screaming Frog. We use Deep Crawl, which is like an enterprise level system, and you do need to learn how to use those, and they can really help you. Then the next pillar that you need to make sure is right, and most people know this and do this to some extent, is their on page. So that's including your keyword research to make sure you're building your content in your site that's actually what people are searching for. And not only that, but the right type of intent. So people are searching for certain keywords and they're ready to buy. So simple things, again, like your SEO title, your description, your H tags, making sure your entire site structured from an on-page point of view that's going to benefit not only the user, but also Google. And that gives you, again, that foundation in search. And then within that, you need to make sure your structure, so your site navigation is correct, and you need to think about how you create your structure. If you've got core categories or core collection pages, and then within those, you might have sub-collections that you can dig deeper into your product selection. And Google likes to see that sort of structured setup, and they're known as silo site architecture. It does depend on what platform you use. WooCommerce, for example, because it's open source, it's much easier to structure a site the way you want. You can create sub-collections easy and make sure it's done properly. Shopify is a little more difficult because we're working with a cloud-based platform. There's a lot of things we can't change. So Shopify is certainly, while it's very easy to use, very easy to set up, low barrier to entry, it's a little bit more difficult to manipulate from a structure point of view. Then the next one is content. And again, I think e-commerce stores, the big guys, they do this, but a lot of smaller stores don't understand the importance of content. When I talk about content, I'm talking about publishing content that users are looking for in the form of blog posts or articles. Shopify, again, has a blog section that you can use. WooCommerce, it's built on WordPress, so you can create blogs really easily. But building content around that's relevant to your products and your collections, and again, structuring that content in clusters. So you might have, let's say, for example, you're talking about, or you're selling an animal health product, like a dog gut health product. Yeah. You want to create articles that talking about maybe exercise can help your dog's general health. What diet should your dog be on? All those sort of things, and build structured and clustered content around that topic, and then use that to support your product pages and your collection pages, and keeping things nice and organized that way. So, and then on top of that is how regularly you publish. There's a lot of evidence at the moment that Google really likes publishing a lot. So we're always recommending to our clients and other store owners that they ask, well, how many blogs should we create a month? And my answer is also always as many as you can, because the more you can publish, the more Google sees that content. And it is part of that frequency of publish, and freshness is part of the algorithm. So if they're seeing new content come in all the time, it's relevant, and you're creating it in the right way, they like that, and you'll get a boost across the entire site. So not only will that blog content start to actually rank in the search engine itself and generate traffic, by using that as supporting content to your collection pages and your product pages, you'll see your collection pages and product pages starting to improve in their Google rankings and their Bing rankings as well, and they'll start bringing in their own traffic.
Cool.
So this is where you need all these pillars in place: your on-page, your technical, and your content to drive the entire process. And then the fourth pillar, which one of those areas that if you're in SEO, you know it's important and you need it, but if you're not, it's got a bit of a bad name, is your off-page, which is link building. Because in the past, it was very easy to manipulate and build spam, essentially, links to sites. You could use software. There was link farms, and some people still do that. And Google obviously got very cluey on that and shut things down very quickly. So now, and it's for the right reasons, because Google wants, if someone's linking to you from another site, Google wants to know that site is, first of all, relevant. So it's a site that's about or partly about your niche or entirely about your niche. So again, if it's a dog or pet product you're selling, a blog owner that writes about pet information, that would be obviously a very relevant site. But not only that, you want the site that's linking to you to have its own traffic, its own rankings, healthy itself, and good quality content. So because that's a natural way and a type of way a blog owner would link to you if they had a good quality site. So so that link building side, it needs to be in a strategic way, looking for relevant sites, healthy sites, and then also how you actually structure those links coming into your site. And then once those links come into your site, how your internal links within your store flow through the rest of your site, and all that aggregates to build power to your pages you're trying to rank, and then you'll increase your rankings. So there's many working parts, and it seems like a big machine. But again, I always tell people who ask, when it gets overwhelming, because SEO can get very overwhelming, is to just go back to those four pillars, and it's sort of easy to identify where the problems are or where you're missing something, or because sometimes sites will just get stuck and you'll be trying to rank a certain keyword or improve traffic, and you'll get stuck for a few months and you're not really sure what's going on. And generally, if you go back to those pillars, you'll be able to identify, oh, maybe there's a problem. We had a client the other day who came to us with a site. They plateaued and weren't doing much. All the on-page was good. They had good links coming in, but they just weren't improving. When we did our audit on the technical side, they had just loads and loads of errors that were simple to fix, but they'd been there causing problems, and Google just doesn't want to see that. So you've got to have all those pillars in place for things to really work.
One question regarding off-page. So how would you go about, I mean, it's pretty clear when you have a coaching business or some sort of a different business, but for ecom, would you do like a guest posting in other blogs, or you mainly reach out to influencers and bloggers and ask them maybe for sponsored content? Or
it is a gray area. It's interesting that Google identifies, well, SEO is against their guidelines. Essentially anything where you're manipulating a part of what you do to improve your ranking is against their guidelines. But then on the flip side, they also have their own SEO courses. So the Google's got an entire, I think they've got a course, but they've certainly got lots of information SEO on their own sites saying how you can help your SEO. So they kind of contradict themselves a little bit. And what they want to happen ideally is sites link to you naturally. So they find your content because it's good quality content, the readers are engaged in it, and then someone will link to you because they want to. So there's been no interaction with yourself. They just link to you because they think it's the right thing to do. But obviously, if you're actually going to be doing SEO, you need to help that process a little bit. So there's different ways of doing it. People talk about black hat, grey hat. Sometimes you also got to think about what actually works because things change. What worked 2 years ago, some of that stuff doesn't work now. But reaching out to owners of relevant sites and having a relationship with them, and they can create a guest post for you and have a link back to your site. That's still a very popular way that people actually build links. You can pay for services. They're out there. So again, all SEOs know them. Most SEOs have used them in the past. Some now don't. Some still do it. So there's many different ways you can do it. The best, like certainly the cleanest way, if you want to be if you're very conservative and want to be really safe, is, it's a bit of a cliche and people joke about it in the SEO industry, but if you create good content and you get that engagement, then people will start to link to you. In reality, you do have to help that process along. What we find too is paid advertising actually helps the SEO process, which makes sense because there are so many signals that help a web page rank in the search engines. But one of the important signals is things like how long they spend on your page, what sort of engagement, if they click, so they make an action on the page, or importantly, if they make for e-commerce, if they make a conversion. All those conversions are obviously tracked through your Google Analytics. A lot of the information comes through Search Console. So if you're sending traffic, even paid traffic, to a site, to your store, and someone takes action and makes a conversion, that's a very strong signal to Google that it's a quality site. So it's an indirect benefit for your SEO by having some form of paid traffic. So we will always encourage store owners to have, even if it's a small budget, have some form of paid traffic coming in. We've seen it time and time again, and even more so if you're using Google Ads, even though they say there's no correlation. If you use Google Ads, we do generally see a bit of a boost in organic just from using Google Ads, whether it's for your e-com store or the general site.
This is also something that I've noticed, and I'm glad you said you're mentioning this as well, because I wasn't sure if it was just like anecdotal evidence or.
I've seen it. I've never done a scientific test with it, but I've seen it enough to believe it's a real thing. But again, I would kind of look at it as if you're sending traffic and it's quality, like it's the right type of traffic, because obviously you can target the right audiences with your paid advertising, and then they take action, then that's a very powerful signal to Google. So it's more about the action that person has taken and the quality of action that person has taken than some people say, well, you're paying Google, for example, you get a bit of love from Google. I'm not sure that's what it is. I think it's more to do that you're indirectly affecting a signal on your site because of sending that traffic there.
In a moment, I want to move on to like practical stuff, but I want to make sure that I cover another like fundamental question. What is your take in regards to Google My Business listing? And do e-commerce stores have to have it? Because I'm sure this is totally overlooked. But I'm wondering if it's important in your opinion.
Yeah, that's a good question. We do it with all our stores. It's again, and this is where you get into the realm of entities and how Google looks at the entire internet. So they want to see relationships between relevant entities around the net. And Google My Business, it's owned by Google. It's a very legitimate way of identifying your business, not only for users, like it's a trusted source. If people see a Google My Business profile, it's a reasonably trusted source. And because it's a Google product, you're also sending a very strong signal to Google. So we always encourage store owners to set up their Google My Business. And they'll come back to you and they'll say, well, but I don't sell locally and I don't sell from my home or whatever. And it doesn't, but that's not really the point of it. Like you need to show Google that you're a legitimate business. And it has all types of other benefits as well. So, but you have to be aware that any third party, and they can accrue reviews as well. If you're not providing good customer service, you might get some bad reviews. So you have to look at it as a trade-off. But it's a net positive from our perspective, and always recommend businesses do it and use the posting feature as well, where you can make a regular post once a week or more if you want to, because you can showcase your products through Google My Business too.
Yeah, and it's also, as you mentioned, it might backfire on you. But this is if you're not running a legit business. But generally speaking, it's a good place to aggregate reviews. And whenever people look up, let's say they saw your ad in Facebook, and now they are considering if they should buy from you, they're going to look up your store name, and then you're going to pop up in the search engine results page. So if you have good reviews, it's a big plus.
That's right. And it's that brand. Once you get to a point where you have some sort of brand recognition and people are searching for your brand, it's certainly a plus. With that risk, it's the same risk you're taking if you sell your products on Amazon, for example, or eBay. eBay's made a resurgence in Australia, believe it or not. And it's quite a big platform in Australia. And so any third party you're using, there's a risk you're going to get bad reviews, but that's when it's on you to provide good service, a good product, all those sort of things.
Assuming someone is listening to this and they never considered SEO yet, And you mentioned the fact that they had to be patient. So can you share a bit about the expectations? What are the first steps you should do? Should I hire 3 people, one to handle the off-page, one to hire the technical aspect, one to hire one to on-page and content? How do you imagine someone should do this, but step by step, like not placing a big investment, because many of the solopreneurs, they don't want to invest a lot.
Yeah, look, it all really depends on where you're at in your business, how obviously what your budget is and where you want to invest. I'm the type of person that likes to know how things work. So even if, like, we have someone else that run our paid advertising, but I started by doing it myself because I want to know how it works. And I think even if you end up going down the road of hiring an agency, you want to know, you don't need to know the detail, but you want to know the basic process, because look, with everything, there are agencies out there who do the right thing and there are agencies who don't do the right thing. So you're in a much better position if you do know a little bit. To be honest, a lot of agencies don't want you to know much because they don't want you to micromanage sort of thing. But the good ones, they're going to be fine if you know a little bit, because then they actually will understand that it takes time, you need a bit of patience, and you'll probably be a better client. If I was starting out and I didn't know anything, knowing what I know now, I think there are so many free resources online now, and there's many good people you can follow, whether it's on YouTube or there's probably, it's interesting that when I started, there was maybe a couple of big names in SEO and then everyone was kind of around the edges. Now it seems to have segmented into maybe 4 or 5 core groups, and within those groups there's a few leaders and everyone follows those guys. Everyone gets on well, but you could look for those if one person appeals to you, to follow that person. But yeah, find information online. There are many courses out there. I've looked at a lot of them. I've invested in myself with a lot of those courses. So that's certainly, if you've got the budget, I think you've got to go down that path. You'll find that some courses don't match up to what your expectations were, but others will really over deliver. And reach out to someone like myself, or reach out to, if you're following someone on YouTube or someone's written a blog post that it really appeals to you, leave a comment on their blog post and let them get back to you, or send them an email, because most SEO guys and girls will get back to you and give you that information really quite freely. So in terms of, if you're in that aggressive mode and you've got a product and maybe you're doing really well with paid advertising and you want to grow quickly, as quickly as you can with SEO, I think an agency that knows their stuff is probably worth looking at. I would say for ecom, it is a little bit different. So you want to look at an agency that, or at least an SEO person who's going to help you, that understands e-commerce, because it is a little bit different. And unless you've been in it for a while, it's difficult to really get a handle on.
You also have a course. You didn't mention this because you wanted to be humble and not self-promote, but can you talk a bit about your course and what you cover in the course?
Well, the course is something, this will kind of make sense. It is relevant. When I came back from overseas traveling, we did work local jobs, but my extracurricular activity was equestrian. So I've had horses all my life and I always rode. And what I did to make a bit of extra money was start instructing and teaching people with horses. And that sort of helped me to learn how to teach. So when I thought, well, there's a lot of information about SEO, but this will make sense in a minute. So there's a lot of information about SEO, but not a lot of information about e-commerce SEO. There was certainly a reason to put some information out there and kind of help people. And then the more I did that with my YouTube videos and then just talking to people, there was certainly a need for a course on specifically Shopify SEO, because there wasn't much out there on Shopify at the time. So we've got it's now up to, I think, about 100 modules.
Quick favor, guys. If you enjoy these shows and have been a listener for quite some time now, we would really appreciate it if you could take the time to give us a review on iTunes, Stitcher, or whatever your preferred podcast app may be. Having lots of ratings and audience feedback makes our show become more visible across multiple platforms. And it also supports our mission of helping as many people as possible to become better marketers and better entrepreneurs. So if you're not driving and it wouldn't be dangerous, pause this thing right now and give us an honest review over your podcast app. And we will love you even more than we already do. Thank you for taking the time, and I hope you enjoyed the show.
Video modules called Shopify SEO, and it basically walks students through starting from scratch in their SEO journey with e-commerce, all the way through to on-page and growing. And it's the idea is it to be evergreen, so we won't just let it sit. We'll be continuing to add new modules and information. And because SEO changes so frequently, there's always new strategies and new concepts and ideas coming in. So we launched that about a year ago. It's gone quite well, and yeah, I hope to continue to help people with it. We've got a Facebook group as well with about 1,000 people in it now, so a good group there, and we've got a lot of discussion happening there. So that's kind of where it's at. So it's I hadn't created a course before, and it's certainly been a learning experience from that point of view as well. When I've learned, it's interesting when I went through it, I had to really step back and review my processes, and I think it's helped myself and my team with our own SEO just by going through that process. So it's been beneficial from that point of view as well.
Interesting. And let's say after I finish the course, how much time do you think? Obviously, it differs and depends on the product and market and stuff like that. But what is the minimum effort one should invest in his SEO, in content writing on a weekly basis, for example? Because many people think that SEO is such a huge animal that they can't even conquer or tame, so they don't even go in.
To be honest, that's a good way of describing it. It is a huge animal, and you can't sort of shy away from that. But it's an incredible channel for traffic once it starts working. And if you can be patient and you be consistent, the key is it's like, eating the elephant. How do you eat an elephant? A little bit at a time. I know it's a cliche, but it's certainly something with SEO. Do a little bit each day, even if it's just, if you're so busy in everything else you're doing with your store or your life, if you're starting from scratch, start with your on page. But certainly if you've got a Shopify store, there are going to be some technical things you need to deal with down the track, because Shopify is not great for SEO. So there are certain things you need to do, but start with your on page. So start with understanding what your market's looking for, where people are searching for your product, what keywords are typing into Google or Bing to actually search for your type of products. And you're going to need tools to do that. And there's some good free tools, like Google Keyword Planner is free. There's Ubersuggest, which we don't use much, but it's a cheaper version of something like Ahrefs, which is it's more of that professional level tool. It's maybe, I think it's $100 a month now, which is for a brand new store. That's quite an investment, but you'll get all the data you need to do your keyword research and importantly, your competitor research as well. So you need to understand you're going to need to invest in some tools as well. But start with your keyword research. Start by optimizing your store for what people are looking for and your on page, and that sets the foundation. And then you can start on the other sort of elements, but at the same time you can start creating blog content. If you're someone who likes writing, you can have that blog content coming in as well, or you can hire writers to do that. It's sort of it depends where you are in your journey, I suppose. So yeah, what I was going to say, if you can only optimize one page a day,
nice.
Spend a couple of hours on a page a day and do that every day. Create your Google My Business profile. Make sure your social profiles are linked up. These are small things in SEO, but they all add up to a big mountain in the end. And you have to have the expectation that it could take up to a year before you see any traction. You would hope you'll see some traction within 6 months. If you really get stuck into it and you've also got a little bit of knowledge prior, within 2 or 3 months you could certainly see some improvement and traffic coming in. But if your site's been around for a while and you've sent a lot of paid traffic and it's gained some external links just naturally, it's had lots of conversions, you might be surprised how quickly your site will take off when you do start implementing SEO, because it's got a bit of age to it. Like domain age is quite important with SEO as well. Brand new domains, brand new URLs, they do take a lot longer to gain traction, like up to 6 months at least generally. And there's a thing called what they refer to, or SEOs refer to as a Google sandbox, where again it's one of those things that's maybe a bit of a myth, but if you read their patents, there is something where when you're a brand new site, they let you tick along not doing much until they understand you're a trustworthy site and you've got some sort of relevance in your market. So that's their way of understanding that they're going to be exposing a good quality site when they know it's good quality, not too early.
Cool. And you mentioned a few tools. Do you have any tools that you use for on page? Because I've been playing around with Surfer SEO and Pop I think it's called Pop by Kyle Roof. I'm wondering what are your thoughts about these types of tools that tell you that you should incorporate more of this keyword, more headlines. They analyze the average, they do correlations, and they analyze what are the top performers, and they suggest what you should do. So is it beneficial?
In the last 2 years, the quality of SEO tools has just exploded. And I think it's because the SEO industry has moved to another level in professionalism, and also big businesses now do start to understand that SEO is a really quite important part of it. And then what's happened the last year around the world, even more so, they understand that online traffic is so important. So with that, the quality of the tools has increased. My tools I have open on my desktop 24/7 are Ahrefs and Surfer. So Surfer SEO. Surfer SEO is relatively new, but it's been an incredible tool for us and a lot of other SEOs to help with content optimization. So for anybody who doesn't know how it works, it essentially, you can put in a keyword or put in your site, and it will analyze that keyword or site against the top 10 or top 100 competitors in Google. And then you can identify sites that are similar to yours. It runs its algorithm, and it basically comes back to you with a template on how you should write a piece of content relevant to that keyword for what's working right now in Google. So it doesn't use something that was working 6 months ago. It's actually what's happening right now in Google. So when you write that content, you're quite confident that it's what Google is looking for now. And then you tie all that in with all the other things I've spoken about. So you're good on page, you've got good technicals on your site and links, etc. And your content's good because you've used something like Surfer. You get very good results, and that can just help build everything. Pop we've used as well, very similar, very good. They're probably the two leaders in terms of content optimization. I think there's some others coming in though. There's other tools a little bit different. There's one called Phrase.io, which is also very handy. So they're my two tools. Another tool I can't go without is Loom, which is the online video creation. I use that for all my client reports, SOPs for my team. So probably those three tools.
Cool. And did you stumble upon Conversion AI? You know what this?
Yes, I did, and it's quite an interesting development, I think. And also now that Surfer is actually has teamed up with them, and haven't used it yet. But it's something I'm certainly going to try. I'm not convinced it's going to be good for long form content just yet. So writing really high quality blog posts, but some of the samples I've seen of answering questions, for example, which is a very good way of creating content by creating a question and answer type page. It's indistinguishable from human written content. So and passes all the copyright and plagiarism tools. So who knows? Being a purist, I would hope that it doesn't completely take over. I think if it gets to that stage, my prediction would be that Google or other big tech companies will do something about it. They'll find a way to identify AI content. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's what I think will happen.
I've been playing with it for almost 2 months now, and it's amazing. It's mind blowing, but you'd still have to supervise. It's just an assistant. It doesn't do all the work for you. So it's still you can keep your own touch, and it never gives you like a complete long form blog post. But it really helps when you have like writer's block. And obviously with the integration to Surfer SEO, it's like very easy to create content. So it's very fun. I highly recommend it. I really enjoy it.
Yeah, no, it's on my list to try out. So I know there are some guys out there who are gone all in on Surfer and AI, Conversion AI, and they're testing building, high quality sites with just that tool. So we'll wait and see.
That would be interesting, an interesting case study. And I wanted to shift this conversation maybe to a case study. So we talked about the patience and investment and the timeframes. Can you maybe share, if you're willing to share, you can share whatever details you'd like, but in regards to someone that came to your agency, they had already some sort of paid traffic and the lift that you saw in the conversions, and what were you able to achieve in like 6 months or 1 month or 1 year? Because I want people to understand, reiterate and re-emphasize the importance of SEO and the huge opportunity of doing stuff correctly and not paying anymore paying less for paid traffic further down the line.
Yeah. So, well, in terms of my agency, it's myself, and I have a small team. I've got 2 writers. I've got a couple of coders who kind of work together and help with the technical side of things, and that's basically it. So, and I only have the clients that I can handle when I can do a lot of the work myself, and they're very good clients. So it works for both of us.
Cool.
I've never had ambitions to build a big agency. I think there's opportunity to do that, but it's not what I want to do. And I've got my own projects, own e-commerce projects as well. So that takes a lot of my time. So yeah, the clients we take on, we want to make sure they fit with what we do. And the example I'll give you to you now, this client came on, he was doing quite well in the, I won't tell you exactly what niche, but it was in sort of the home garden type niche, or home improvement niche. E-commerce store on Shopify, was doing very well with paid advertising, and based in the USA. And had built up quite a nice brand as well, so he had brand recognition. So the good thing about him, the people were already searching for his brand, so they were finding his site with brand search, which is a very strong signal to Google. So he probably started a little, I'd say 2 years ahead of where a brand new site would start from an SEO point of view, and he had lots of conversions and all the rest. But they were sitting at around memory. This was 8 months ago. They were sitting at around 3,000 to 4,000 visits per month, but it was up and down a lot. Like it fluctuated a lot, and when we work with any client for the first time, laid out the expectations. It's going to take time. This is what the investment's going to be. But if you follow the process, and you have to trust us because you've come to us with that expectation, that we'll get results. And we never guarantee results, because you just can't do that with SEO. Google can come and change anything tomorrow, and you have to start from scratch. But everything we've spoken about, the pillars, the 4 pillars, that's exactly how we started the process. So yeah, there's lots of technical errors on the site which they didn't know they had. We dealt with all those, went through all the content. We were actually changing some URLs, which is not something that's highly recommended. You can always do 301 redirect. So if you change your URL, you can redirect the old URL to the new URL, but you will lose some power in your URL when you do that. And sometimes you'll see the traffic going to that page reduce as well. So, but we did quite a bit of that because the URLs just weren't as they needed to be. And we made it clear to the client that you probably will see a reduction in traffic, which is always a hard thing to tell a client, but and they trusted us. And so now we're at about 8 months, and last month they had a record month. It was between, I think, 25 and 26,000 visits. Wow. Organic visits only.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So, but that took, so the first 4 months, not a lot happened. We actually had a reduction in traffic, but we could show the client what the changes we were making, some of the improvements and what Google was seeing, even though they weren't, a lot of the keywords that we were trying to rank weren't on the first page, but we could show they moved from page 8 to page 2, for example. So you can show that there's progress, which is important. But importantly, with an e-commerce store, traffic is great, and increasing traffic is great, but you've also got to increase the revenue if it's going to be worth it. So we increased the revenue quite significantly just on organic traffic as well. So that makes me smile, it makes the client smile, and it's a great thing when you can do that. So that site now has moved into what we would call almost an authority site. So Google looks at it as a leader in its market. It's up there competing with Amazon, Walmart, Wayfair, all those really big home type sites in the US. And it's a small business relatively to those guys. So
how many products, for example, does it have? Like hundreds or
250. They've always got between 200 and 250 products at any one time. Some are seasonal, so some go out of stock a lot. So not a big site at all, but we've just created a lot of relevance and power within that site that Google knows that's what people want.
Nice. And what are do you remember what were the conversion rates for organic traffic in opposing to paid traffic? Because many often the organic traffic are used with better intent, and the conversions are going to be higher. This is also something that people need to keep in mind when you say you have like 30,000 visitors, or 30,000 visitors. The likelihood of them converting is pretty high. Obviously, it depends, but generally speaking,
yeah. I tend to think it's a lot of it is certainly based on the quality of the product to start with, of course. But generally, you'll see a greater conversion on if you're sending the right traffic through organic than you will through paid. But if you're sending Google Shopping traffic, then that can convert quite high as well, because that has the buyer intent.
Yeah,
You've seen the image previously, so it all depends on the type of paid traffic. But organic traffic is not free, but it feels free when you've got it coming in daily, and you can stop your business for a week and the traffic still keeps coming in and you still keep making sales. Of course, you can do that with paid, but it's a little bit different. And also, organic traffic is very valuable if you've got a business that you want to exit, for example. Investors will look at organic traffic with a lot of value. Even though let's say the revenue from both channels are the same, they'll inherently value the organic traffic more greater than they would the paid traffic, because you just obviously the return is a little bit better.
I agree. And in regards to keeping like the organic traffic, the organic efforts constantly. So let's say, okay, you lay the foundations, you have the traffic. Now, do you need to keep on updating constantly? I mean, is it something that you set and forget, or obviously it's not, but how challenging it to keep on refreshing stuff and staying relevant after you already have good organic traffic generated?
So from a technical point of view, we would run a technical audit every month using tools, and that can be done reasonably quickly if you've got the right tools, where you can just have the tool crawl your website and you can very quickly identify any problems, and then you can fix those problems. You might find 4 or 5, if you've got a small site, you might find some broken links, and you can very quickly go and fix those broken links. So that's something you want to be doing regularly, because they can add up over time. Your on-page, if you've got your on-page dialed in, there's not a lot you need to change, but obviously it does make sense from time to time to come in and refresh maybe a product description or a collection description. Also, what will happen is if you've got new content coming in on a blog or new products coming in, you may add an internal link on a page to another page that wasn't there before. So that's considered fresh content. And then, so that sort of, it's not static content, but it doesn't need to change all that much. But the blog content, as I mentioned before, it does depend on the niche a little bit. Some store owners will find it very hard to believe that they need to create content. Maybe it's not a product that they think they could be writing about, but if they go and do the research, they'll find there's always topics you can write about on your particular market. So yeah, like I said, as much as possible. But I would say if you're starting out, at least try and get a bit of content out once per month, and do some research on it. Make sure you're creating not a 200-word blog article. Make sure you do research, see what your competitors are doing. If they're creating content that's 1,000 or 2,000 words, you need to be in that range. And again, that's where tools like Surfer or Pop can take all the guesswork out of it and make it really easy for you.
Anything? Is there anything else? I want to start wrapping things up and concluding. Is there anything else that you think is important for the listeners to know, or a question that I forgot to ask?
No, I think we covered a lot in a short period of time. SEO is one of those topics where I can talk for hours and hours and hours on it. So we'll end up going down many rabbit holes. But yeah, I would just emphasize anyone starting out. Yes, it's a big beast and it can seem really overwhelming. But those 4 pillars, the on-page, your content, your technical, and your off-page, really are where you need to focus. And when you've got problems, you can always come back to those and solve the issues you have. So yeah, but it's an exciting area to be in, especially when you see it working. It's like nothing else.
For sure, I agree. I started emphasizing and learning SEO like a year ago, and since I started seeing signals, it's so much more fun than seeing the signals from the page, because you feel it's something that you've built correctly with long term in mind. So it's very fun and very exciting.
No, it's it's once you get it, it's pretty amazing. So I would encourage any store owner in e-commerce to certainly consider it as part of your traffic and your channels.
Awesome. Okay, thank you so much, Jono. We've covered a lot, the foundation, the fundamentals of SEO, a lot of great tools that you've mentioned that are very valuable. How should one start with SEO, e-commerce SEO? So I really appreciate you sharing this, so much valuable insights. And where can people find more about you, see the course, join the group? Can you share, drop some links?
They can find me, my agency, and my courses on EcomXSEO.com. You can get our course with a coupon that I'll provide to you, and you can provide a link in this podcast. Yeah, and you can find our full course there, Shopify SEO. And there's also a link there to our private Facebook group. So you just need to apply and mention this podcast and EcomXFactor, and we'll let you in. There's it's a good group to be on.
Nice.
And also you can also just reach out, send me an email if anyone wants sort of advice or input, or I'm reasonably generous with my time.
Cool, awesome. Thank you so much, Jono. It's been a lot of fun, and I already have ideas for maybe a follow up, but we'll see.
Yeah, great. Thanks for having me.
Okay, great. Bye. Take care.
Bye.
Hi guys, this is Yaron again. Just a few more things before you take off. Number 1, if you want to learn more about e-commerce and marketing, make sure you check out our YouTube channel, which is called EcomXFactor Official. Number 2, check out our Facebook group, which is called EcomXFactor Marketing and E-commerce Mastermind. This is a great place to ask questions and connect with other business owners. And last but not least, if you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to share it with your friends and colleagues, plus leave a review at your favorite podcast app.